Hey, Ted Stern here on the Fit Responder podcast, where we dive into topics like fitness, first responder stuff, and an unfiltered look into the stories and lives of some very interesting guests. So check us out and check out our fitness program at fitresponder.com. And I hope you enjoy the show. All right, for those checking out this interview, prepare yourself because I know Dominick does not hold back, and I can assume we're going to have a totally unfiltered conversation, which is great. I mean, we need more real conversations and real people nowadays. And, just to introduce you, Dominick, hopefully I do you justice, working in law enforcement for 16 years. What I got from your website is straight from your website here, the adopted son of Jesus Christ, a martial artist and tactics expert, entrepreneur, author, speaker, media personality, talk show host, podcast guest, political analyst and candidate, and above all, a warrior. And like I said, Dominick, you're a very outspoken guy. You're very opinionated. And when it comes to topics like, women in law enforcement, cops who are lacking in their constitutional knowledge, use of force tactics, the war on drugs, I know you don't hold back, so I think we're going to have a great conversation, and let's just get to it. First, I just want to say thanks for joining, man.
I appreciate that. First thing I have to do is change that abysmal bio. I hate that fucking thing. Yeah, oh God, I can't stand that. I wrote that in a time where I was trying to do more marketability on myself, and it's just, I'm me. I'm just a guy who's done some stuff, and I enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, tell me what you don't like about that bio. Did anything stand out?
Oh God, one of the things that I can't stand hypocrisy. And one of the things I've been experiencing very much lately in the Christian faith is the level of hypocrisy that Christians have. And it's, we love Jesus and look how awesome I am, but then we're going to condemn all of our other Christians. So I will change. I need to, that the warrior for Christ thing that I put up years ago. And I thought it was cool, where it's like, and then you pull a step back. If anybody does follow Christ, I mean, I don't associate with Christians, but I am a Christ follower, and I know there's a conundrum there. I say all the time, imagine the arrogance we think that we need to be warriors for somebody who's already won the battle. So, I mean, small stuff like that. I'd put more into the bio, my time frame. I was in law enforcement from 2001 to 2019. I was a massive pain in the ass. I was extremely professional at the job. I love the job. I would allude more towards my passion for the profession. And well, we'll get into that as well too. And I would add in, although I ran for sheriff, I would never run for office again. Anybody ever thinking about it, do it, get the experience, and then don't ever do it again. So I would change some things.
That is interesting. Well, let's get into the law enforcement thing first. And I'm going to assume there's probably listeners who know all about you. There's definitely going to be listeners, I'm sure, who don't know anything about you. So I'd rather you just tell it, from your mouth. What got you into law enforcement in the first place? What made it something you were super passionate about?
I had two tiers. The first time when I got in, I was working as a 4 a.m. bartender, and everybody said, "Oh my God, you'd be a great cop," and blah, blah, blah. And I wanted something more secure. I was almost 26 years old. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life, working at 4 a.m. I don't want this. So I tested, and it was an anomaly. From the day I turned in the application, the first application ever, till the day I got hired was 4 weeks. And I kept hearing these horror stories because I was not sure if I wanted to be a cop yet. And everybody said, "You don't understand. I've been testing for 9 years. I haven't gotten hired." And I kept hearing these damn horror stories. So I took the job, the first department I went to, and I did it. And I did it for a while, and I loved it. And, I was like, this is great. And then I started seeing some of the inner workings of how the job was not the ideal profession, meaning that it was supposed to be an idealist. I was supposed to go in and change the world and help people's lives and all this. I was supposed to be a part of changing your life if you called me. And after I got to see that, holy shit, command staff is just scum, and they forgot where they came from, and your brothers and sisters in blue aren't your brothers and sisters in blue. And this was something that I was told by my peers and mentors who were in other departments before going on. They tried to warn me. I took a break from law enforcement, and the public fucking sucks. The public are scum, and they're never going to change. The public are always looking to vilify the police. The public will never take responsibility for shit, ever. So it's my job, if I willingly choose to do this profession, and every day I get up and I got to put that uniform on, I'm not going to go in to look at it as I'm going to make a difference in the world. I'm going to sit there and be the best version of myself. Because it doesn't matter if it's little, 80-year-old woman who's down the street and she's pissed off because her neighbor's dog is outside barking at 2:00 in the morning, or if it's a person who's just had a drive-by, at their home, or somebody stabbed or whatever. It did not matter what the call is. Some human being, either because they legitimately needed help, or because we're their employees. They pay our salaries. They expect it. It didn't matter what it was. I had to curb my ego, show up, and I had to be the best version of myself. And that to me was like, damn, this is, now I was 39 or 40 at the time when that realization set in. And I went, this is a massive responsibility that as a younger man, I just didn't appreciate. It's like, I have the opportunity to thanklessly, because they don't give a shit, but I get the opportunity to go in every day and actually be the best version of myself. How do I do that? So I saw that as a daily challenge. I saw law enforcement, being a cop, as one of the best outlets for self-perfection.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you clear this up here too, because like I wanted to do some research, if you will, look into kind of like your background before I came to talk to you. And we all know a couple things that are true about the internet. One is it's full of a lot of BS and a lot of random opinions and a lot of rumors. So like I figured I'd ask you, because I saw one article that said you retired from law enforcement after kind of exposing some corruption within the department. I saw another one that said you got fired for sending pictures of dead bodies. I saw something else that said your just consistent remarks that offended people. So tell me, I guess, what was it that led to you? What was the conclusion of your law enforcement career? Why did it end?
I just did an entire video on that on our YouTube channel, Officer Dominick Izzo, from start to finish, everything. My last department, I was allowed to retire after a 3-year battle where I got fired. And that was because I found our body cameras, WatchGuard body camera, which is out of a Texas company. They were recording us nonstop. We had thousands of hours of all of us officers taking shits. You could see our text messages to our significant others, taking pisses, this and that. So I filed a lawsuit, federal lawsuit. 13 of us went through it. 9 of them got scared out of it. And the remaining of us went through the end of it. Prior to the officer that's settling, my chief, again, I talk about all this. I love the man. He was my fucking father figure, biggest mentor in the world. He flat out said, he goes, resign or I'm going to fire you. I sent 2 dead bodies to a picture of a guy that I used to work with. I owned a gym and he actually ran my gym, didn't run my gym the way I wanted to it. So I got rid of him, sent him photos over the time. One of was a woman who was 86 years old, bled out from a ruptured upper GI. So found her in a pool of her own blood. And another one was a guy we found dead in a closet of a heroin overdose. So I sent 2 photos between February and July of 2016. And my chief said, resign or I'm going to fire you. I said, for what? Because disseminating department policy or disseminating department property without express permission, chief of police. Being through the ringer, I said, fuck you, fire me. They offered me 100%. Well, you can resign and we won't look the other way if you go to another town or this town or that town. I said, no, absolutely not. I did nothing wrong. So I fought it. I was reinstated. I was reinstated on October 7th, 2019, and I retired October 8th, 2019.
So how did you win that? I mean, was it
because I didn't do anything fucking wrong. And I don't mind. And I think anything, my dirt should be brought up. And I brought up all this crap because this is the same reason you're having me on this podcast. I speak about cops as if they're shit. They're lower than shit. I am unbelievably critical, and that ruffles the feathers of a lot of police officers. It really does. And we'll get into that. And when I put out all this material, part of it was to show that, and it was amazing because it always fucking happens. Anytime I put up my story, you get all the time, oh, you were fired for this. And then when somebody finds out what I actually went through, and they always DM me, dude, I went through the same thing with my command staff. Yeah, because they know how to manipulate you. They know how to screw with you. I never got married. I never had kids. I became extremely self-righteous in the last 5 years of my career, where I hated what command staff could do to cops. And my disdain for law enforcement always began with command staff. I watched how they violated the same shit that they've strung cops up on a daily basis, how they went from patrol to sergeant. And the next thing they're doing is they're disciplining guys for the stupidest shit on the planet because they can. And it's a power trip. So because I was in a great position I didn't care if anything happened to me. If I got fired or if I was forced to resign, I didn't have mouths to feed. It was just me. So I took on positions that were against the command staff. And where I started to get really salty was the air quotes brothers in blue that wanted me to write the letter of no confidence and demand the chief's resignation. The ones that wanted me to file the lawsuit, the ones that all stood behind me, they were like cockroaches when the fucking lights came on. When it came down time for them to fucking have my back, well, I can't. That's when I started to look at, and liars and cowards as everybody else. So I will say this. Everybody accuses me. You're bitter. You're just salty. You hate what happened to you. I'm heartbroken. I am devastated to what happened to me. I loved that profession. I am 100% bitter and angry and salty on a lot of avenues, but it happened for a reason, and I can speak out now. So anything that could question my integrity or my ability to speak on the subject needs to be called out. So again, whatever dirt people want to bring up, it's all out there. Everything from all my departments, all of my performance evaluations, everything, you name it. And I did, like I said, I did a very long, even my my disciplinary file, I've made public. I've shown the letters of reprimand. I've shown the letters of where it was claimed, and I'm not going to get too long-winded on this, but I showed how during the process of my paid administrative leave, all of a sudden it was like they started manufacturing charges that were never addressed. And then I got to address those during a deposition, which was great. But again, I started with command staff, and I could not believe how the police officer, the American police officer, is pressured on a daily basis from their family life, then the people on the street, and command staff. And they're the least protected. The patrol officer is the least protected member of our society today. And that should put them in a position to standing up bigger than everybody else. And they don't. And that catapulted into my whole, what seems to be, I hate cops rhetoric.
And we should definitely address that, because on the one hand, you're saying, you know, these patrol officers, they're a vulnerable class. And then on the other, I look at your social media and you made a statement, all cops are bad.
100%.
So do you believe all cops are bad?
I do. And I'll explain why for a second. You have to understand that it's a mindset and it's a standard. And if I come up with an analogy, I can come up with several. It's ownership. I function, this is me personally. I function, I don't know how old you are. I was born in 75. I come from a place of negative reinforcement, and I'm not looking for, you know, poor me or whatever. I came from nothing was ever good enough. I came, you're shit. I came from you suck, whatever it was. And I thrived off of that kind of negative reinforcement. My mother was unbelievably non-affectionate. I don't remember ever hearing her say, I love you. And I know that stemmed into me striving for praise from other people. Negative reinforcement it's the biggest motivation for me. You're into fitness like crazy. If I came to you for fitness advice and you were, oh man, you got this and blah, 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 I wouldn't respond to that. As a peer, as a man, if you looked and said, dude, you're a loser fucking piece of shit, how can you even remotely get your next level of shattering every one of the expectations you set for me? That's how I function. It's the same. That's my mindset going for law enforcement. I have a very black and white view. You have 700,000, 800,000 cops in America, and that's down from 1 million in the last several years. I view things as, if we went in the academy and we used to say knowledge of one is knowledge of all, or if we used to have pride of one, right? We had a very famous case in my town in 2015, the G.I. Joe Glenowitz case. He was murdered, we thought, and it turns out he killed himself. And there were thousands of police from across the state, and we had some from England come to his funeral in September of 2015. We'll all stand in solidarity of honoring, right? We're all going to stand in solidarity of the good shit. But when it comes down to the bad shit, and this is America across the board, you know, it's like you can have a gay pride parade, Hispanic parade, Italian day, whatever. But when it comes down to talking about the concepts of, and I say this a lot, which is always Very interesting. I think that this is my words, not yours. You don't know what I'm going to say today, so you're not associating with me at all. I think that the black community is the most violent community in America today. And I talk about the young, urban, fatherless, out of control, criminal element black community. And you never see anybody questioning me or saying, not all, especially when it comes from law enforcement. So we'll go to praise any group, black culture, Hispanic culture, gay culture, whatever it is. But when we align or associate either a crime or negative, no, not all. Same thing with law enforcement. And so it's an American standard we have set. We are all willing to accept all the good about all of our cultures, no matter what it is, profession, heritage. But when it comes down to the bad, no. But we don't want to accept the fact that, I was a cop who's 5'7", white, male, Chicago area. And there could have been, a 5'2" female on the West Coast or a 6'1" black guy on the East Coast, and their actions, butterfly effect, my view of what they viewed of me when it came down the street because somebody in the news did something stupid. Well, that's not me. That's not me. Collectively, my view is if patrol, specifically police officers, sat there and said, it's 2024 and we still have an epidemic of unbelievable, stupid police officers on the street, which we know why that is, hiring process and command staff. And they said, we own this. And their standard was of that negative reinforcement. I don't want to associate with this. I don't want to be a part of this. I know who I am. They would put pressure amongst themselves, and that ripple effect would just absolutely tidal wave across the nation. What do? Oh, we have to humanize the badge. It's a bad day for a cop. You don't know what it's like to go out there. We make excuses. This profession has the day-to-day right and responsibility, right? The lawful right and responsibility to take away somebody's freedom and or life if lawfully necessary. And we want to just give people excuses. We need to know what happened beforehand. We need to know what's going on. If that person just wouldn't have resisted. It's a standard. The American citizen, again, are just scum. They're not good people. Inherently, as human beings, we are scum. Use a faith reference. If anybody is Christian, that you can't do any works to get into heaven. You are saved by Christ, if that's your belief. So you're born with original sin, if you're Catholic as well, too. You can't hit the ceiling of a standard set, but you can always strive for it. And I'm getting long-winded, and I know it. Ultimately speaking, my view is, and it comes from my wrestling background, being coached, it comes from anything else I've done. Today, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. I don't care what you did yesterday. What are you doing to get better tomorrow? And that goalpost keeps moving and moving and moving. And ultimately, it's the individual who's chasing it, saying either I want to keep chasing, no, I'm never going to catch it, or fuck this, I'm done. So I have a huge love for the profession of law enforcement. I think it's the greatest profession on the planet, and it requires the highest fucking standards in the world of a profession, higher than anything else. We wouldn't accept doctors or brain surgeons. If we had the number of doctors and brain surgeons who fucked up almost willfully, we would be outraged. Lawyers, we'd be outraged. But we give police officers a big pass. I'll wrap this up because there's so much to talk about it. My view is I want, and it's a certain type of person I'm looking at, right? My view is always, I'm never going to be good enough for something, so I have to continue to strive. So in my view, every motherfucker is bad. Keep striving. And it sounds sadistic, but it's pressure testing.
I appreciate that. I mean, I can definitely agree with you on the last point that it's a very important career. And I mean, if you're relating it to doctors and whatnot, they have a lot more education and training, and arguably so should law enforcement, right? So we don't have so many errors. But on the one hand, you're saying, hey, I like the idea of negative reinforcement. If you're coaching somebody, you might say you're being a piece of shit right now and you suck, and you hope that they respond like you might, like, okay, well, I need to be better then. But of what value is it to say literally all? Is that a logic? Like, do you mean logically, literally, every single cop is bad? The moment they get the badge and they're sworn, they are now bad just through association as being a part of this group. And you can say
the association from
You could say this group as a whole is not performing like they should, right? And you could say it's riddled with a bunch of bad cops. You could, I mean, definitely, but now somebody who's just signed up, they have great intentions. I want to improve my department. I want to act righteously and in accordance with the Constitution. Are they bad?
The entire system, bad is subjective, right? Bad's going to mean different, and it's going to be on whatever level it is. The entire system is fucked up. Do you, and again, I will never skirt an answer, but I'll try to come up with analogies that maybe sound better. Do you agree that, I mean, it's 2024 and we still have a never ending supply of videos of even like traffic stops where cops sit there and they violate somebody's First Amendment? Do you agree that problem, that specific problem, is bad for law enforcement?
Of course.
Right. We have to start there. I did this years ago, and I'll ask you questions. And the only way this works is if you're 100% honest, because people were asking me too. Well, that means that you were bad. 100% I was. Every fucking thing that I accuse people of doing, I've probably done. Everything. All the way from shut your fucking mouth, you're going to go to jail. All the way from fucking disrespecting people. All the way from roughing them up a little bit. Everything I fucking did, I accuse other people of. I did first, and I'm aware of it. Have you ever sat there have you ever based your traffic citation off of the attitude of a driver?
Like whether I write him a citation or not? Absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
Why?
Because I use the citation as maybe a tool. Like, okay, if somebody is remorseful, they're sorry. I'm like, they already know what they did is wrong. Maybe, potentially, right? If they're like, I'm sorry, I definitely did it. I screwed up. You know, I'm like, okay, this person knows that what they did was wrong. If I get somebody who goes, oh, this is crap, you're being cheesy, you shouldn't pull me over, I'm like, this person is less likely to correct their behavior based on what I know. Somebody who's apologetic is more likely to correct their behavior, not do it again. Somebody who doesn't see that what they did is wrong, they don't even see it as wrong, that's somebody who's unlikely to correct their behavior. Maybe this citation will teach them, shit, I probably should avoid doing that in the future. So that's why I would, somebody who's not respectful, not agreeing that they did anything wrong, I'm more likely to give them a citation. So yeah.
Do they have a constitutional right to be disrespectful to you?
Yeah, of course they do. Yes.
Now, I posted this years ago up on social media and I didn't realize this was a problem. I disagree with that. All right. I got to know Sheriff Richard Mack of the Constitutional Peace Officers Association and Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And I started looking at things like, and it's just my view. Like I started to disagree with traffic tickets, and we could argue it's revenue generation and all this kind of stuff. And then again, it's subjective, but I started to look at things of, am I basing citations off of attitude? The job of the police officer is to keep the peace and maintain order in a free society. It's to keep the peace and maintain order in a free society. So I asked cops, I said, how many of you, this was like 10 years ago, how many of you base your traffic citation on the attitude or the words of the driver? Tons. Yeah. Of course I do. Of course I said, because it's changed my behavior. It's not their job to change somebody's behavior. That's the court's job. It's the job. Now, if you say, yes, I'm going to document the incident, right? Because that's your job, is to report what you've observed, clearly, eradicate violence through use of force when necessary. But when a cop says, and this is the pebble in the pond that starts the ripple effect for a tidal wave. So it's my job to change their behavior. No, it's not. No, it's not. When you stop a car, somebody's speeding, they're doing 35 over. You stop them, and they pulled over, you immediately stopped the behavior that they were breaking the law for. The issuance of the citation purely without any question should be on the action that you saw. So I always sat there and said, you decide, I was an FTO. You decide, period, whether or not you're going to write the citation before you make it up to the car, period. When that driver, it doesn't matter if that driver tells me to go fuck my mother. Doesn't matter if they suck their teeth and don't say anything. Anything based off of that is personal. It's subjective. You might have somebody look and go, you know what? Officer, I really don't give a shit about your ticket. And you could be like, I'm going to write it. I'd be like, okay, well, you're just a piece of shit, has a bad fucking day. It doesn't bother me. It starts there. It starts there when we start to look at, why are we issuing citations? Why are we, when do we decide that discernment? And I don't know about you. I've had tons of use of force instruction, report writing, DUI, juvenile officer, gang schools. I've never taken a class on officer discretion. Never. So that is a starting point where we have to look at is how many cops don't even know what the Constitution is. And I've argued this with other cops where when we start to say it's our job to change that behavior, no, it's not. Our presence could, a citation could, but when we start to say, no, I'm there to change your behavior, that's the courts. And the court gives us, and the court and the Constitution give us a responsibility to that. And we can circle around all that all day long, but that's where we start. And that's where I started to notice, shit, how many times did I have a partner pull over for a backup and you walk up to the car, what's going on? I'm giving this bitch everything. Why? She gave me attitude. The fuck, dude? You're on ticket number 6. That's a problem. That's police corruption. That is where it starts. That is, my wife's fucking my neighbor. I hate my kids. I'm out of shape. I go to work. Command staff shit on me, told me to write this report for the 3rd fucking time. I'm going to go out and take it out on another human being because I can. How many people? You're humanizing the badge? I think it takes the most intense person on the planet, who at many, many times I was not, to sit there and say, I cannot let this shit trickle down on the very citizens that I'm accountable for. So I'm a massive idealist, and that's where it starts.
And I can totally agree with the perspective that cops need more training, that we need a better focus on how they use their discretion. Are they using it in ways that's very unconstitutional? Are they using it in ways that make sense given the law and their authority? All those discussions are valid. And I think we're going to agree on a lot of those points. What I'm worried about, Dominic, just to be transparent, is that when you make a statement like, hey, all cops are bad, it's going to turn a lot of people off to listening to the further message you might have about those topics you and I would both agree on. Like, we got to improve training. We got to, limit cops abusing their power, all that. But it is it's the same way a lot of people speak when they see a cop misbehaving, doing something bad. They're all shit. Therefore, they're all bad. And I could come up with a ton of examples. A surgeon performs a bad surgery while they're high on their own supply. All surgeons are bad. A lawyer misuses their credentials. All lawyers are bad. I mean, with your logic, it seems like with any career, I could say all football players are bad because Aaron Hernandez murdered somebody. I mean, so by your logic, couldn't I then say any career, they're all bad? Literally, they're all bad? Or is it?
Yeah, you can, and you should, and that's the responsibility. Number one, it sounds horrible. I'm not out to make friends. I don't give a shit. And this is the other part too. Do you not think that I would love to have ended my profession and put myself in a position to where I could go to some blue line event and not wonder which one of these motherfuckers wants to start shit? I would love if I didn't have current cops and ex-cops and social media blue check marks cops did not have the balls. None of these fucking cunts have the balls to ever talk about anything in their social media, but they'll come to my stuff, right? And it's all because of exactly what you said, how I said it. But how did we get here today? How I said something. How I said something triggered something in you. You were not pleased with it. Let's have a discussion. Now, it's going to take the people, because remember, I told you, people are tone deaf, brain dead. The American citizen is full of shit. They always lie all the time. You're not going to get a percentage of it. I want the pebbles that are going to go into the pond that cause a tidal wave. When I say all cops are bad, yeah, surgeons are great. Lawyers are great. Whatever else it is. There is no other profession where you deal with people at the volume of what law enforcement does. And it's not like Starbucks, to where if I go there today and you order a grande latte with 2 shots and whatever, and I screw it up, all right, I screwed up that order. I have to memorize this, get this right, blah, blah. In the process of the learning curve, law enforcement, for the most part, to my knowledge, is one of the only professions that their learning curve is in action, other jobs are too, where it can cost someone's freedom or life. Maybe brain surgeons, heart surgeons, all this, but they don't get to that point. You could work on a cadaver for years, all this stuff. You don't really get that in law enforcement. So the day that you wind up doing something and shit, I arrested that guy, and you look back on it. And I use this example all the time. I was eager as hell in my first year. It was 6 o'clock in the morning and I wanted overtime. So I pulled the guy over. It turns out he had an expired driver's license 6 months. So in Illinois, that's no valid. Man, overtime. Shit. Guy was 60 something years old on his way to work. I stop him, do a street booking, tow his car. Guy had been driving longer than I've been fucking alive. And I look back on that and go, the fuck did I do that for? For a stat? For overtime? Holy shit. The learning curve. My learning curve cost somebody hundreds of dollars in tows. God knows if he made it to work on time. Ruined his fucking day because I was learning. Now apply that to use of force, taking somebody into custody, shooting them, all this. No, the standard has to be, when I say bad, you have to go in, and the bad is the minimal. You have to go in law enforcement like this profession is fucked. I refuse, because we are months away from 2025. And the video that I sparked this was of the I can't remember what state it was, guy trying to hang himself in the back of a squad car. And what does the fucking dumb cop do? Open the door, starts dropping elbows on his head. And you have people saying, oh, he's trying to save his life. Okay. We still have people who will say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Well, the guy shouldn't have resisted all this shit. And he's on camera, which poses the question, how is it 2024? 2025 is around the corner. And we still have these men and women who are getting hired, who are tainting the profession. They are bad, and they still do this shit. And everybody know. Again, this is a question. You had said in 11 years you served, you really didn't witness anything. And I'm not going to put you on the spot. And you don't have to
go ahead. Put me on the spot.
I'll throw myself under the bus. I will say this first. I lied to Dr. Rashad Ritchie. He did an interview with me several years ago. We talked about police racism and all this shit. And I didn't remember it at the time. I could not recall this, but I'm going to tell you flat out. And now that I can recall it, I lied. And he asked me if I had ever heard anybody use disparaging remarks as a cop. And I said, no, never, not once at all. But then I remember Chicago Bob, who was supposed to be the hero that came up to our department, and he came from CPD, and he was a white guy, community service officer. He had been given so many ribbons and merits and this, and we're having coffee at Thornton's, and he just cannot wait to tell me, I'm so glad to be out of the city and away from all those fucking niggers. And I went, okay. And I didn't say anything. I said nothing. So who's the scumbag? Was it Chicago Bob for having that mentality, which could have been a bias towards the citizens in the town that I've been working at for years, or for me for saying, well, this guy's going to have his opinions. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm biased as all hell. I'm very biased, but I never brought that shit to the job. I never said that in the job. I use the word all the time when I joked, all this kind of shit, but I would never do that as a police officer in uniform. I was just as bad as Chicago Bob in that fucking moment. So, and there's been many moments like that. You get somebody who goes, I smell weed, take him out of the car. And I go, well, I don't smell it, but I didn't stop him. Right? Other shit. And we're going to take her into custody for what? All that shit for that blue brotherhood. It starts there. And you don't have to answer. But if you've ever witnessed anything like that, where you got one of two paths, right? You can confront your brother in blue. You know how that's going to go. Then you risk the department policy of saying, no, you harassed them. Even though in the next damn page in the general orders, it says it's your responsibility to take care of one another and correct behavior. And then if you go to command staff, well, what's the problem here? And 2 weeks later, for some strange reason, you're going to get pulled out of your new Tahoe and you're going to get thrown in the fucking squad without air and it's 90 degrees in summer. Everybody knows how this shit goes if they truly are honest with themselves in the job. So the profession keeps getting tainted. You got a clear glass of water. You put some drops of ink in it. And no matter how much you keep trying to dilute that fucking water to get it clear again, they keep putting drops of ink in it from people who are allowed to resign, go from one department to a fucking another, new recruits who come on who, holy shit, you can go to your command staff and say, this guy is not ready. He's going to be a problem. We just spent 40 grand in him in the academy. He's out in the street training better. Right. And also the profession is fucked. So the profession is bad. Cops swim in it, by default, they are bathed in shit that it's their job to clean everything up. They've got the hardest job in the world. My view is the standard on the American police officer needs to be the highest among any profession in the world because of the expectations. And that's just an honor aspect of it. And my last point before I fucking turn blue from talking so much, look at how incredible the cop is, right? The American cop. If you go to war, and I was never in the military, it's my biggest regret. I was too much of a fucking pussy to join the Marines. If I would have, my view on war is you got somebody who's at war with you, you annihilate their entire family, their existence, you eradicate them like the fucking Roman Empire would. End of story, right? Then you got the citizens. Peace, love, and hair grease. We got to live in unity. Some of us want socialism, all this shit, right? Then you got the American cop who's stuck in the middle. Soldiers can annihilate shit. The American criminal can annihilate shit. Here's the police officer. I'm going to send you on a fucking 10-minute pursuit going through town, adrenaline dump. This guy just murdered his fucking wife, raped a toddler, set a daycare on fire. You stopped him, and the second he puts his hands up, you got to turn it off. That is a quality of human being that is among the elite of all of us. And we want to dumb that down? We want the American citizen. Oh, I wish that cop would beat the shit out of him. When you cross that boundary, when you have these dumb bootlicking fuck brain dead critics online who support cops stomping on somebody's head, jamming them, throwing in a gut check, this is punishing them because the guy deserved it. You destroy every act of humanizing the badge that is expected of these men and women. We are asking these men and women to do the highest, most incredible, prestigious job in America. And when we start making excuses for their failures, we dishonor them on the highest level. That is my mentality and my standard, and why I say all you motherfuckers are bad to begin with. Prove to yourselves and society that you are improving on a daily basis, and you are better than the rest of us.
Yeah, and like I said, Dom, I think a lot of your points are great. We have plenty of videos of cops out there misbehaving, right? And we have a lot of problems that need to be fixed. I think cops are really undertrained in this country. It's ridiculous that you can go through an academy for a few months and here's a gun, go out on the street. I mean, I felt unprepared at 21 going, wow, like this, I'm a big kid now and I'm going to do all this. And after such a short academy. So I agree with all that. I just think, like, unless you get the chance like you have right here to really explain yourself, when you immediately say, all cops are bad, I think, although it may get some people to go, tell me more, like I did, I want to talk to you, I want to hear, it's going to get a lot of people to go, well, this guy is just painting everyone in a negative light. When there, as you can admit, can you admit, there are very well-meaning cops who know the Constitution up and down, who would turn in anybody on their squad who they see doing the wrong thing, acting unconstitutionally, and would do the same for their admin if they felt that. Like there are plenty of cops that are out there that have those attributes. Would you agree?
I've only known two that actually stood up to the department. Was it Greg Anderson and myself? That's it. I don't know anybody else, and I've seen it firsthand. Otherwise, I don't have faith in cops, and we saw that. Can you really in good conscience say that after what you saw during the pandemic? Can you really in good conscience say you have faith in law enforcement after you saw men and women who swear an oath to the Constitution arresting gym owners, churchgoers?
Oh, is horrible. And I can't postulate, if I'm going to guess, what percent of cops are going to do things that I think are morally too many. Sure.
Too many.
I would agree with that. But I also know that if I were in that place, and if it were for me, I would not have enforced those rules. I was not in a position to do so at the time, and I know plenty of other cops who did stand their ground and wouldn't do that. So
they say that until they're faced to it. I guess the ultimate scenario is you're married, right?
Yes.
You get some shitbag who's on his way, and I don't know if your wife was a cop or not too, but she was.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's capable. Let's say she's having an off day. It's some shitbag on their way to your house to rape, murder, just destroy your house and your wife, and you're not around. What standard of cop do you want showing up to your home?
Right.
What is your expectation of that cop?
Yeah, of course. I expect them to be able to kick ass, be prompt, defend my family, and do it the right way. I mean, sure.
And do you have that? Do you think, are you better than any other American citizen on the planet?
Better in what way? I don't
Are
know.
you a better human being? Do you deserve that cop more than anybody else?
In truth, yes.
Why?
Uh, because I contribute to society in a positive way. I contribute to others in a positive way. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't that are actually just more of a leech, or they're just a negative kind of stain on society and others around them.
And they don't deserve due process. They don't deserve.
No, we can't. Here's the thing: we can't operate on a practical level with my opinions. We can't go, well, you deserve the benefits and you don't.
There's my point. Did you have these opinions? Did you have these opinions when you were on patrol?
Yeah, of course.
So did you let them bias who you took care of and who you serviced properly and not?
No, because I could.
Are you sure? Are you legitimately sure?
No, I mean, no, I can't think of a single example. Like
I respect you. I respect you acknowledging this.
When I first saw George Floyd,
when you saw Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd, when you saw what we all saw the first time, what was your opinion? What did you think?
My initial reaction, which was just based on the video and what the media was showing me, is that it was real bad. He killed George Floyd. You know, it's basically a murder on camera. That was my initial opinion when it first came out.
Fast forward a year, when you find out all about George Floyd's background, his criminal history, the fentanyl use, what did you think about that situation?
I mean, if all I'm taking into account in your example is his background and the fact that he was a repeat offender and all this stuff, it probably made me feel less bad for him as a human being to lose his life. But if that was the only factor, I would still think the murder essentially is unlawful. But of course, we also found out other factors later that, you know, he might have just overdosed on fentanyl and all these things. And there's a lot of debate as to whether or not he was actually killed by the knee on his back or neck or whatever it is.
Yeah, I disagree with Chauvin murdering him. And I've said this publicly. I never changed my stance. I don't give a shit. And this has always been my stance. Now, I don't know what kind of a neighborhood you worked in. I worked in a shit neighborhood. Everyone loves to pull up my stuff. Round Lake Park. Round Lake Park, you're either black from the city, Hispanic, you don't speak English, or if you're white, you're a hillbilly who's lived there for 60 years, don't have your fucking teeth. They have no sidewalks. I don't even think they got street lights in yet. It's a poor town that was built on a lakefront property where they've got every window has to have a window unit air conditioning, or they're frying in the middle of summer. And I was never better than those people. So when shitbag from 123 Main Street called up, it did not matter. Well, I was making 65, 70 grand a year, maybe with overtime, right? Because the town was fucking poor. It did not matter. If this guy was a doped up piece of shit who beats his wife and he cheats on her and then he yells at his kids all day long, he's today's offender. He's a piece of shit human being. Tomorrow when he calls 911 because he got robbed, because he got stabbed, shot, whatever, I owe him, as per the oath I swore, the exact same service, dedication, and quality of my performance that I would give anybody else. So when America looked, and it was disgusting to see all these people, well, George Floyd held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach a year ago. George Floyd's on fentanyl. What Derek Chauvin did in that case was worse than murder. He punished. In a day and age where we know that blacks hate white cops and, oh my God, they shoot unarmed blacks all the time. You had a man kneeling on a black man who was fucking restrained like he was an African safari trophy for 9 minutes. And the American public and this is why the public is a diseased collective, just shit of human beings, because they flopped going from, oh my God, this poor black man, to holy shit, he did what? So when it comes down to it, no. Your wife deserves the most elite officer to show up at her door. And you know what? The shitbag down the street who's divorced 3 times, is a drug addict, fucking beats his dog, whatever. According to our Constitution and our way of life, I don't give a shit if you think he's a fucking scumbag and beneath you. He deserves the exact same thing. And until we start seeing that collectively with due process and how the Constitution works, all cops are bad. The profession is tainted. There's a bias. This is where we have to change. And this goes back to the police. I'm asking cops to be superior human beings because they got to show up to people they want to choke the fuck out, people they want to beat up, people that they know, man, you've beaten your kids, you've done this, you've done that, and they want to strangle the shit out. You're asking them to stop. They're not soldiers. They're not citizens who the state attorney is going to let it get away with anything. They are people who literally have to run a marathon at full sprint and then stop immediately and recover right away. Right away. Yep. That is an elite human being. That is the best of us. That is what I expect when somebody says, I'm going to sit there and uphold this oath, the Constitution, and serve the people. That is what I expect. And my expectations are through the fucking roof. And maybe, unlike how America operates, we teach to the weakest link. Whenever you teach group classes, I'm sure you've done this before. Well, we're always told, especially when we teach law enforcement, you got to dumb things down. Fuck that. I'm a wrestling coach. I'm a martial arts teacher. I stopped with the whole shit of, hey, all right, we got to wait for Johnny. We're going to wait. Johnny better level the fuck up or Johnny can find another fucking sport to go play. We don't do that because it's not reasonable. It's that. And as far as my rhetoric goes, that falls on me, doesn't it? Again, I can play nice and I can be very fair and talk about how great cops are and this and that. And I could have hundreds of thousands of followers and this and that. For what? It's not the truth of mine. It's not me being genuine and honest. I truly believe that the profession is fucked. We are still talking about, well, cops don't have the education. How is that possible? How? And it's possible you asked me, I think, how to solve this problem. And I don't have all the answers for shit. I have the problem and I'm going to beat the dead horse into the problem until somebody smarter than me comes up and says, this is how we solve the problem. I just want to start off the conversation. But when it comes down to it, it's my accountability, my responsibility. I don't give a fuck if they hate me. It doesn't matter. But again, I think that the American police officer is a superior human being than me, than everybody else, because they choose to do this. They choose it every damn day. But that means that while in the process of them choosing it, they got to choose to be at their best every day. It's asking a lot. And every time I say this, right? I said this last time, I think every cop has to have 100%, a perfect score on their constitutional test. And it's got to be done every year, right? Fourth Amendment minimum. And then they have to go to the range. Their range has to be unbelievable. It's not pass or fail. It's not 70%. It's 100%. All this shit, fitness, all this stuff. Well, you're going to have to raise their pay then. It's like, wait a second. So when you think about that, that's what so many people said. You have to raise their pay. So when it comes down to the willingness of acknowledging the job you're about to take is thankless. People will hate you. You're expected to know the law. You're expected to follow the Constitution. You're expected to know this. But because we don't pay you what you think you're worth, you're allowed to fuck up and we'll give you the gray area and we'll have your back and we'll back the blue and we'll humanize the badge. If you think that's acceptable, that's fucked. I just don't think it's acceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can both agree that there are problems in police work. And the fact is we're all human beings. And I don't know if there's anyone who truly is unbiased in terms of, all right, I'm going to look at this person and what do they deserve, quote unquote, and what does this person deserve? But we have to act as if we are unbiased. And I was able to do that. Like you said, I go to shitbag's house. They're complaining about how they were a victim of a crime, which, they pretty much let themselves be, and they're an idiot and they're a jerk, whatever. I would still write up the report and do what I would do for anyone else. And similarly, if I were to tell you, I think my wife deserves saving more than some other people out there, I really do think she does. Nevertheless, every cop has to respond to that call where they have to save somebody in an unbiased manner, even if they feel differently. It's acting differently than how you feel. I may not feel like this person should get Narcan. Maybe internally, I think they should just fucking overdose because they've done it 10 times and it just needs to happen. They're just such a leech on society, but you have to give them the damn Narcan. So, I mean, on the one hand, I think a cop can legit say, I do think one person deserves saving or some kind of treatment more than another, but my job doesn't permit me to act in a biased way. So therefore I won't.
It's the mindset. And that's just where I differ, right? Because It's like Olympic. Like I was a competitive wrestler, folk style wrestler, and I was never even close to Olympic material because I didn't take it seriously. Because I went through my career and I enjoyed practice. I enjoyed the meets. I enjoyed making weight. I enjoyed that. Those people who medaled or even made it to the Olympics, they are above every other person in any other sport that they commit because of what they do, the work they put in behind the scenes, their standard, their standard. So it's a rhetorical question to ask yourself. It's like, yeah, I want every cop to have the highest of standard and ability to come to my home. But do you trust them? Can you flat out say, even in your department, can you walk away from that saying, all right, every single one of those men and women would do the job to the highest level every day of the week, twice on Sunday, no matter what the state of mind is.
Can't say that.
That's my point, because I'm striving for fantasy. It's not a reality. It can never happen because of the human factor. But because it's a fantasy, I want every cop to be at the highest and best standard of their ability, because it can never happen. And because it's just not possible. Should I say, fuck it, let's be realists. There's going to be scumbags out there. There's going to be this, there's going to be that. Should I drop my level of passion for hoping that if 2 people listen to this and go, fuck, I'm going to work tomorrow, I'm actually going to iron my shirt, I'm going to shine my boots, because I don't like the fact that people do look at me like I'm a fucking pig, and I'm going to do the job better. I'm going to study the IVC. I'm going to learn what the state statutes are. If 2 people do that, then that's better, because maybe amongst those 2 people, they got a better delivery system than I do on this. Yeah. So it's, again, I know, and I told you this privately, I know how I sound. I ran for Cook County Sheriff out here in Chicago. And I went to some meetings with some like black leaders in the city. They told me flat out after I gave a couple speeches, like, dude, what you say is spot on. How you say it will never get any votes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand. I get it. So the only thing I can say is I'm aware, but, and this was always what happens, if the main response from the active and retired brothers and sisters in blue who come to my comments are personal attacks on me, because you never see it. They're not able to criticize anything I bring up. They're just not. It's always personal attacks and then my history. That shows that we have an ego problem in law enforcement, and even somebody like me why should I ruffle their feathers? They shouldn't give a shit about what I have to say. If they do, that means that apparently I have a powerful enough voice to get people's attention. And that's why I started doing a lot more law enforcement content. I don't support these bootlickers, and I sure shit don't support the people who are anti-cop either. It does suck. I'm my own worst enemy, and I'm very aware of it, but it just happens. This is what I feel for me is the proper way to speak about what I think are superior human beings.
Superior who are all bad.
Yes, they start again. You're into fitness, right?
Yeah.
Are you the fittest you're supposed to be? Are you 100% satisfied where you're at?
No.
So you get this concept. Right? You're never going to be satisfied with where you're at, right? Are you hard on yourself?
I have been. Yes, yeah. I have been.
Same damn concept. Yeah. If everybody went in saying, I need to know more, I need to learn more, I need to be more proficient in my skills, I need to do this more, I'm not satisfied, change the language. I don't give a shit what it is. It's I said bad. That's subjective. Okay. That's subjective. Then getting into, I don't know where you're at, but we do know cops who abuse the law every chance they fucking get. Have you ever sped?
Have I ever what?
Have you ever sped in your vehicle?
Spun my vehicle?
Sped, S-P-E-D.
Oh, sped. I'm sorry. Yeah, definitely.
You ever go the same miles an hour over that you would pull somebody over for?
Yes.
Then you're a fucking hypocrite. And we start here, right? I've never done this. I don't drink. I barely ever drink. Oh. I can't tell you how many cops I know. Cops are the biggest abusers of DUI laws out there.
I don't know if that's okay. I got a different take on that, Dominic, because maybe, for example, a doctor could drink alcohol and ruin their health and whatever, but they could still help others by whatever their actions are, improve their health by telling them, don't drink, don't do the things I do. And I'm not saying this makes it right for a cop to speed. I'm not saying it's right, but a cop can still be a good cop even if they speed, because they can still make a positive impact by enforcing laws not to speed.
Correct.
If they are acting.
What's the main factor that you have to have for every crime that you're investigating?
What do you mean the main factor?
Intent.
Okay. Yeah.
Intent.
Okay.
Intent's going to change the difference between first degree murder and second murder. Would you agree that it's intent? If a cop speeds because he knows he has a badge in his back pocket and he's not going to get a ticket, or if a cop goes to a bar and drinks and knows he's going to get professional courtesy going home, that's intent, isn't it?
I don't like any of that behavior. And personally, I didn't speed going, I know I'm going to get out of a ticket. I think we all end up kind of going with the flow of traffic sometimes, but
sure. These are my points as we have this. The video yesterday, and this is a main problem, is it's a subjective problem as well too. The video you saw yesterday that I put up showed a guy, and granted, maybe he could be clear. I think he was fired, but he could contest that. Use of force. I was trying to loosen a seatbelt around him. And for those who haven't seen it, fully handcuffed, wrapped the seatbelt around his neck, and he was trying to use the leverage of pressing against the door to strangle himself. Cop comes in the back door and starts punching him in the face and elbowing him. If that was you, not you as the cop, but that was me, plain clothes, whatever, you show up to a scene where you see somebody with something around their neck and I'm elbowing them, do you have lawful authority to use deadly force on me?
You are the person who's throwing.
I'm the person punching. There's a guy in the backseat of a car. You walk up to a scene. I am dropping elbows on somebody's head while they are being strangled.
Yeah, right. You could articulate that you're likely to cause serious bodily injury or death, right? And I need to stop that, right? Not knowing anything else. Absolutely.
Why is it citizens don't get the benefit of a doubt in an investigation like that? We throw them into cuffs right away and charge them.
No, it's a good point. I mean, on the one hand, you could say, hey, look, cops, at least in theory, ought to have more training to be able to recognize situations like that accurately. So we give them the authority to take those actions, whereas, your average citizen does not have that training. Obviously, there's exceptions. Hey, but we're running short on time. I have an exercise I want to do with you. Okay, pretend you're hiring. Okay, you're in charge of hiring cops, street cops, and what I'm going to do is list a person's attributes, and you're going to either respond with continue, like I'm still interested in learning more, or no, meaning like I already know enough that I wouldn't hire them. Okay, so their name is Alex Smith. Okay. 35 years old. And
35 years old would be a reason I would continue. Yeah.
Okay. You're going to continue, right?
Because of that age. Yep.
All right. They have a great background in mixed martial arts, a lot of experience.
No, that doesn't really apply that much. It wouldn't prevent me, but it doesn't impress me enough to continue forward.
Okay. So really it's just DQ or I'm still interested in learning more, right? Okay.
But are you leading these by these are their primary, well, let's just say this. I continue. Go ahead.
Okay. Like all I'm saying is if you hear anything you want to DQ them for, DQ them. If you don't hear anything yet, that's just going to DQ them. Don't. All right. They have a background in constitutional study and criminal justice. They're very well educated in that. DQ or at least learn more.
I think the Constitution, sure. Criminal justice, I think, is one of the biggest bullshit degrees that people get for their job. But yeah, go on, continue.
Okay. They're a female. No. So DQ.
No. DQ.
So, just because of their gender, their biological gender or whatever, that they should not be a street cop because they're female.
100%. I am 100% anti-female street cop. Women should not be in law enforcement street cop.
There isn't one female out there who exists who could do the job well as a street cop.
Again, when you say that, it's a standard. Can't be exceptions to this rule, no matter how painful it is. You see, I don't know if you just saw the video the other day of the female cop who got punched in New York.
Yeah.
Did you see what that other cop did while taking the guy into custody?
I did not.
He wailed on him. Okay. Wailed on him. The problem is the same reason why I don't believe that women are allowed in the front when it comes down to military. Now, all of a sudden, we as men have this psychological need to protect them. They're smaller than us, weaker than us. And of course, there's always exceptions to the rules that could do it. I've mentioned 2 that I used to work with that were friends of mine. But when it comes down to it, those were still people I cared about. And I don't trust myself not to go a little bit harder when it comes down to taking somebody to custody. What happens if those 2 cops are fucking and they work on the job? and all of a sudden somebody gets punched in the face and she's a female. What's that male cop going to do? What females do, it's a rarity. It's an exception. Those who can actually do the job. And I used to say this all the time when I went to when we used to do women's defensive tactics. If I went to a group of men, and again, I said, hey, which one of you can take me into custody by yourself? Every single fucking man should have their arm raised up, no matter if they're out of shape, if they can't fight, if they know my background. I don't care. That's the mentality. I used to ask this of women, their fucking eyes would go blank. Well, that they don't have the mentality. They do, and it's a generalization. So based on the fact it's a generalization, I do not believe that women should be street cops at all. No exceptions.
Why can't we treat it on an individual basis? I could understand you might think the majority can't.
Because if we don't start having standards, that's how you get into problems. Well, this person, this. Well, this. I'm tired of this person. Well, this person we should accept is the one that failed FTO, but because the department fucking just spent so much money in them, we're going to make sure that, we're going to wait. And maybe in 3 months they'll be better. But then during that 3-month process, they're screwing people over, towing cars, arresting people. The mentally handicapped guy driving down the road in his bike in the middle of the night that everybody knows, well, you're going to give him a no headlight ticket that costs him $75 that he doesn't know, that he doesn't have. These are all until we start doing solid blanket standards, everything. Stop with the pass or fail at the range. If we had stopped at the pass or fail at the range, I wouldn't be a cop. Because my firearms proficiency fucking sucked. So if I wanted to be a cop and I found out the range day, no, you have to score 100% perfect. Fuck. Because I want to stay at it, I would be at the range 3-4 times a week, spending my time, my money training. But because they give the leeway, you only got to qualify 70%. Fine, I'll see you on range day. I'm never going to use my pistol anyways. It's cancer. It's apathy. It's why it's all bad, because everybody needs to look. Your standard was great for you when you passed the test. And then once you got off, we no longer have proficiency for standards during the course of your career, because that could get a chief voted out on no confidence because it's against the union bylaws. So again, it's painful and it sucks, and I'll take the hit, and I don't care. I don't care if 5 women are great. I met a girl at a defensive tactics class who was 6'1". The bitch put me into a wall while doing a defensive tactics move. She's won. But when it comes down to it, with the age of TikTok cops, bikini models, Officer Ashley Smith with her tits out all over the place, that's the standard that we're fucking setting for female cops. Who can take them seriously? They're a distraction.
Isn't the problem that we're not holding people to the right standards? That's all it is. So, okay, if you do have a female who is weak and who whatever and is doing stupid TikToks, okay, they shouldn't be a cop. Or you do have a guy who sees their female partner get punched and they overreact. That is the problem. And
you just spoke the truth.
Drawing this too far back.
I have to draw it too far back because those solutions, which you just said, which makes sense, are never followed through with. If what you just said actually came about, you would get my agreement 100%.
Well, I think they're followed through with. Like, cops do get, like, weak cops who are pathetic sometimes lose their job, and we do have guys who overreact who sometimes lose their job. But I agree, we should enforce those standards better. But I think it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in my personal opinion, to say, hey, because there are instances of female cops who aren't up to snuff, then we have people overreacting, then okay, no female cops, period. Because you have to start with an extreme, right? It's cleaning house.
It's people are talking about this defund the police, and they have no idea what the fuck that is. Yeah, defund the police. Okay, so you're not going to send 2 of them to some fucking report writing class for next year. Big deal. They don't get it. It has to be, and if all things, again, this is my mindset. If we're approaching 2025, and on the foundational level, we still have non-stop videos of cops violating people's First Amendment rights on traffic stops. Do you not agree that what has been going on for so long isn't working, and a change could be mine, could be somebody else's, but if it's not working, a change needs to be made? Yeah, and the way that the Blue Line Brotherhood thinks is, when it comes down to it, I chose to get fired over the exact same actions of what my chief taught me. and go out and take some photographs and show your family. But if somebody saw what the guy that Massey did, oh, I shot somebody on duty. I killed him. What's that? They're the fucking brother in blue. I'm the fucking disgruntled, bitter, butthurt, cop-hating blue falcon. Because my thing is I want standards changed because the system isn't working. Everything you said makes sense, but it doesn't work. So a change needs to happen.
I mean, I definitely agree. A change needs to happen. I definitely respect you taking a strong stance. I love thinking in black and white terms. It's just how I roll. So I do respect it. I don't necessarily agree with everything you say, but that's cool. That's
or should you? I don't want you to, because by not agreeing, you will have the answers that I can't see. I'm too blind with what I say. I see red. I'm too stuck in my ways. But if my rhetoric can trigger the smarter people out there to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but let's approach it this way, then a solution can be had. So it's standards. And the easiest thing I could say is like fitness. If you had your way, should it be mandatory for cops to be in a physical shape year round, or they lose their job?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
We can't do that. And we make excuses and this and that.
That sucks.
You started doing, and now you take that over to law, state law, village ordinance, constitution, everything. And you blanket it. This profession is demanding the best of the humanity out there. You really want to humanize the badge? Step up to the fucking plate and be elite human beings that make the rest of us look like fucking scum.
Last question, Dom, because I'm down to my couple minutes here, and I always end with this one just for some reason. What is the meaning of life?
Meaning of shit. It depends on your views. My views are that my views. Meaning of life is that I've got a relationship that I have to fix and keep and cultivate with Christ himself and not give a shit about anybody else. But in the process, my job is to advocate for him so that if somebody hears what I say, that they get a better relationship with him. That's it. There's no other purpose on life, no fitness, no more motorcycles I got to buy, cigars I got to smoke, this and that. Life is meaningless unless I perfect or strive to perfect what's never be done, my relationship with Christ.
Love it. Love your strong stance there. All right, we will close it out there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Awesome conversation. Before we end it out, though, Dominick, can you please share like how people can see more of your content, where they can find you, where you recommend they go if they want more info on what you're doing and what you have to say?
Yeah, I'm a proud representative of Spreely Media. Spreely.com. You can find it on YouTube as well, Rants of Izzo. But if you want more law enforcement content, I got blessed with a pretty substantial YouTube following. We went from 1,100 subscribers to nearly 50,000 subscribers in a month on YouTube. Officer Dominick Izzo. I again, you got a snippet from this. I have a very big passion for law enforcement, and my delivery system is not the safest or the most PC.
Well, I think the reason why your following has grown so exponentially and why so many people are interested is because there are too many people who kind of try to walk both sides of the fence, but you're very clear, very strong, very opinionated, and unafraid to say what you want. So I think that's inevitably going to attract a lot of people, especially people who align with your interests. So anyways, Dom, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate that. All right, everybody, go ahead and check out more of Dominick Izzo on his platforms, and stay safe, strong, and fit.